you are most welcome here. But I'm very much delighted to have you today. Well, no, I've already been introduced to Brigadier Dominic Trace Gomwe, head the commander at the National Counterterrorism Center, whose work is just basically to coordinate. And when I see all of you here from various centers, various places, that's the really good work of coordination. And I'm honored to stand before you today, this workshop to assess the implementation of our project that is ending, which has been on the strengthening efforts to prevent violent extremism and enhance human rights safeguards in Uganda. The IGP has already mentioned, has already expressed, told us about this existential threat of violent extremism and terrorism, which is here to stay with us. But then, on a good note, that we are doing something about it. I know it's not a simple task to overemphasize the existential threat of terrorism and violent extremism. I normally have a tendency of looking at it from different perspectives, maybe at 3 perspectives. And it's out of those perspectives that we look for solutions to counter or prevent this existential threat of violent extremism and terrorism. One perspective is that we could look at it as a disease. I'm not a medical doctor, but in the layman's language, if we looked at it as a disease, then there should be diagnosis and look for the symptoms and then go ahead. Of course, prevention is always better than a cure. So we must rely on that preventive aspect, which is very, very important. If we look at it from the criminal perspective, then we must use all tools at our disposal to handle this criminal. So here, the law enforcement agencies, the legal minds, the human rights, that's where your work has been, and it's very commendable. That means we look for solutions from the legal perspective, and bearing in mind that as we are doing that, we cannot forget human rights, and that we must take human rights as very, very important in this case. Effective counterterrorism measures and the promotion of human rights are not conflicting goals, but complementary and mutually reinforcing. Another perspective is if we have to solve this problem, maybe we may look at it from the war perspective. If we are saying this is war, then that means we have to devise means at our disposal to handle this problem. So, but important to note that as we use the hard power, the kinetic means, we must ensure that we balance them with the soft means. And that's very, very important, still without forgetting the importance of human rights. Could we have technology-based solutions, leverage social media, AI, and data analytics to counter extreme narratives? Is it possible? Can it be done? Our partners, is it possible that you think about it? Of course, we are not forgetting the art and culture. We must utilize art and cultural events to promote peace and tolerance. That one has already been done. I know Kabaki did it, and it should continue. Mentorship programs, yes. Let's spare the vulnerable youth with the positive role models. Now, as we conclude this project, we recognize that our work is far from over. And this is really from a realistic point of view. Our work is far from over. We must continue to address the evolving threats of violent extremism, promote human rights safeguards. I pledge that we will build on the momentum generated by this project to ensure sustainable progress and a bright future for Uganda.
I think one of the fears we had at the beginning of the project was how, Brigadier General, we could bring our colleagues from the civil space into your area of work, but you've done it so nicely, and our civil society actors are so at ease in your presence and in your offices, and so this is really a good testament. Colleagues, today we celebrate a significant milestone in our collective journey to tackle the urgent challenges of violent extremism in Uganda. This gathering symbolizes our unwavering commitment to the principles of peace, security, and resilience. Together as dedicated partners, we stand united in our mission to create a safer and more just society. At the outset, I'd really like to acknowledge and express my deepest appreciation to the government of Uganda, as already stated, for their unwavering leadership and dedication to preventing and combating violent extremism. Your commitment has been instrumental in advancing this critical agenda and ensuring the successful implementation of our joint project. In addition to the direct threats to national security, violent extremism and radicalization continues to challenge Uganda's broader development agenda, including the achievement of Vision 2040 and the 4th National Development Plan, which is currently being worked on, and of course the Sustainable Development Goals. Vulnerable groups, particularly youth, women, children, and refugee communities, remain at significant risk, especially as the COVID-19 pandemic has exacerbated these challenges. Increased online activity among young people has also heightened this exposure to online radicalization and recruitment. In response to these pressing issues, the government of Uganda has shown remarkable foresight by developing the national strategy for preventing and countering violent extremism and terrorism. Today's meeting, however, is crucial and important as we evaluate the progress made during the implementation of the project. As we move forward, I also want us to remain united in our commitment to the principles of human rights, security, and sustainable development. Our efforts must focus not only on preventing and countering violent extremism, but as we learned last week from the threat assessment report, we need to critique and look at how we can contribute to promoting social cohesion among communities to reduce social grievances and conflict. We need to look at how we can work together with government and civil society actors and religious leaders to look at issues of addressing inequality in our communities, but also looking at some of the socio-economic gaps that are making it easy for people to become susceptible to these vulnerabilities.
Let me just recall briefly the past. The UNODC intervention was designed already in 2021, following several terrorist attacks in Kampala, as you may recall. And it was aimed at accompanying the priorities in the prevention of terrorism and counter-terrorism of the Ugandan government. I actually recall that I was personally engaged in reviewing and redrafting this initial concept of this project. And I attached at the time, and still do today, a very special importance in working more closely with Uganda, in view also of the many ongoing challenges, not only at the national level, but also at the regional level. Throughout the years, we've been working with Uganda but under this project, but also regionally in the context of a project for Eastern Africa with the YAPCO, the Eastern Africa Police Cooperation Organization, that focus more on strengthening law enforcement capacities. Since then, we came a long way, and it is today for us a very important moment. When we look back at what was done, at the road that we walked together, and we will be today looking back at what was achieved under this project in terms of assistance provided, expertise provided, types of engagement, methodologies, results, impact, and sustainability. We will also be reviewing key substantive areas of focus of the project around the support of the priorities of the government. We know, of course, also that prevention work is a very long-term engagement, and it is very difficult to quantify after just less than 2 years. But my sense is that we have started very significant work with tangible results, and I'm sure we'll hear more today. The recently finalized Rapid Threat Assessment Report on Violent Extremism in Uganda, to which also Sharon referred earlier in her statement, and also the conclusions of the multi-stakeholder roundtable discussions could be considered as an initial roadmap. I would like to just highlight a few elements that came out from those discussions. The first finding is that the threat of violent extremism conducing to terrorism in Uganda remains medium to high. The second one is that particularly the youth is at risk of being radicalized and getting recruited into terrorist groups. And the third element is the complexity of the push and pull factors, including feelings of marginalization, lack of opportunities, employment, and to some extent also distorted religious ideology, among others. The heightened threat highlights the importance and the urgency of continuing our cooperation and the technical assistance support also in the future. The prominence of youths as a target of terrorist groups clearly indicates the need to focus more on this aspect of the work along with all other interventions. And finally, the complexity of push and pull factors reconfirms once again the need to coordinate a whole of government, whole of society approach that includes both security as well as strong preventative responses. Clearly, much work remains to be done, and I very much hope that with the finalization of this project and its evaluation and dialogue among all of us today will not represent the end, but really a new beginning, and will be helping us to chart the paths ahead of our continued joint work.
David Waswa Sengendo is my name, GP and Director Counterterrorism, and as I stand here this morning, I think I'm one of the most proud Ugandans today to see a room fitted with different people from different backgrounds, different kind of work, talking about a common threat which in the past everyone thought it was a security issue for Dominican David Waswa alone. I'm very happy, and I want to start on that note to thank our father, our partners, to thank you NODC, to thank EU and our partners here for walking us this journey. The 1994 United Nations Human Development Report is what introduced the concept of human security, which equated security with people rather than territories and arms. So when you look at the causes of violent extremism, as listed especially within the report that we saw last week, clearly we see that the only way to go is the way we are seated in a room here today. And the project that we have been running and probably the many more to come are the way to go if we were to restore confidence within our populations. Because security today talks about freedom from want, freedom from fear. That is very far from what I would define security in the past, and Brigadier Dominican Canalex here probably would have defined security before. So I'm happy that projects like this one has enabled us to open up our mind, to be able to come together and to look forward to make ourselves safer, talking of a unified effort. So I want to thank Brigadier General Dominic and your team in the National Counterterrorism Center for hosting this unified national effort, coordinating ourselves. I want to thank the international partners, UNODC, UNOCT, European Union and others. I thank the civil society organizations. I want to thank you, Professor Katendi, for your, beautiful input to us, trying to open up new windows that we probably didn't know that were there. And today we understand the threats that we face here better.